What's up, people? My name is Topsy. Today we've got another episode of the Property Pod brought to you by Shared Ownership Week. Last week I was at the London Home Show talking to prospective buyers all about getting on the property ladder. But today we are at a legal and general development called Acer Apartments, an affordable home scheme, talking to David, who has bought a shared ownership property within the last few years. David, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. And how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. So, what made you want to buy a shared ownership property?
For me, so I was living at my parents' and it was always my dream to have my own place. And I had a few friends that had shared ownership properties and I saw them living in these amazing properties, in central London. I thought, I want that. And I thought shared ownership would be my way of getting on the property ladder. So,
100%. And where did you first find out about it? What was the first sort of intro into looking into shared ownership?
Well, like I said, like word of mouth. So my friends, but then I signed up to Share to Buy emailers.
Okay.
And I started to visit websites of housing associations that I knew offered shared ownership. And, just seeing out of home posters round and about town. And yeah, I saw quite a lot of it actually. When you're looking for it, there's actually quite a lot of shared ownership information around. So,
100%, 100%.
yeah.
So you were initially looking at buying 100% of a property. What was the difference between those 100% shares versus the shared ownership shares when you first realized actually shared ownership could be an option for you?
Oh, 100% would not have been possible. I mean, on my salary at the time and, the amount of savings I had, I knew that there's no way I was ever going to be able to buy a property outright. So, shared ownership was the right solution for me.
Yeah. And in terms of the difference of location as to where you could buy shared ownership versus where you could buy 100% of a share of a property, what sort of areas were you initially looking at compared to where you ended up buying?
I always wanted to live in central London.
Okay,
so
fine.
at the time I worked in Southwark and, I was living at my parents' in Enfield and the commute to work at that time was like an hour and a quarter.
No, yeah.
And, going out weekends and stuff. And, for me, I always wanted to live
Didn't
in
want to go
central
out on
London.
Enfield then?
You what?
Didn't want to go out on Enfield then?
No.
I love Enfield, by the way. No disrespect.
No, I love
Enfield
Enfield,
as
nothing
well,
against
yeah.
Enfield, but,
Yeah.
it's my dream to live in central London. And, I'm now living in Elephant and Castle, so you can't get much more central than that.
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah.
So how did you find the general process of buying a shared ownership property?
I found it really simple. So I got invited to an open day, literally about a few days after I originally sort of started to look into the property that I was interested in.
Yeah.
So I got invited for an open day. There was a mortgage broker there, so I had the affordability
nice.
assessment all on the same day. I literally reserved there and then.
Wow.
I literally reserved the property, the plot that I wanted while I was at the open day. I then paid the deposit for the reservation. A few months later, I was exchanging, and then because I bought off plan, I just had to wait for my apartment to be built. So
Amazing.
I then completed about 9 months later.
Okay, amazing.
So yeah, I found the whole process really smooth.
So you were able to view and select the property you wanted on the same day
same
that you actually
day.
went there?
Yeah.
Amazing.
And that's the place I'm living in now.
So some people sometimes have a few worries that off plan is a bit sort of sketchy, i.e. what you're seeing in the visuals sometimes might not match up to what you actually end up living in. So
Yeah.
how would you say, or how close would you say reality was to the virtual aspect of what you were seeing, I guess?
Well, I mean, the show home they had at my development was a 3-bed. And so, I knew mine was going to be a 1 or a 2-bed, so I had to take that into account. But generally, like, in terms of, like, the position it was a similar position to the plot that I'd gone for. And, the specs, I was told it's probably quite a similar spec. So, yeah, in terms of the flat that I bought compared to the show home, it was quite similar.
Okay, awesome. And in terms of the quality and the design, because you've been there for what, I think 3 or 4 years now?
4 years now, yeah, 4 years September. So yeah,
Have you had to make any crazy? Have you had to make any crazy repairs, or it's all been pretty high
Not
standard?
really. I mean, everything's just been furnishings.
Yeah.
I haven't really had to make any repairs at all. And
Amazing.
it still does look like a new flat. I don't know whether I'm just really clean or
Yeah.
But yeah, like it still feels like my new home. It's strange. It's been 4 years now, but it still feels like my new home.
Okay, awesome. So one thing that I get asked a lot sometimes is, should I carry on renting or should I look into shared ownership? Could you shed a bit of light on maybe the cost of what an equivalent place to rent versus what you're living in would be, if that's possible?
God. Yeah. Wow. I mean, for a 2-bedroom flat in Elephant and Castle, to rent out a whole flat, you're probably looking at 2 to 3 grand, I imagine. I mean, I'm paying probably less than a third of that. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's basically sort of incorporating the
That's
rent.
incorporating the rent, mortgage service charge.
Amazing.
So probably just over £1,000. So
Yeah, amazing. Are there sort of communal areas? Do you get any other services with that, facilities and things along those lines with your flat?
not in the way of facilities, but there is a nice roof terrace that we all have
Nice.
access to. So you've got sort of a nice outlook over Canary Wharf, and you can see the Shard and stuff.
Yeah.
There's like some communal gardens outside we can use, like bike store and other stuff that you could want. I mean, yeah, there's nothing like, because I know like some properties have like
of course.
gyms and cinema and stuff. I mean, we don't have any of that, but I mean, my place is absolutely fine.
Yeah, of course, of course. Okay, so a lot of people sometimes ask as well in terms of the benefits versus the cons. We've sort of been given a really good sort of, I guess, PR session right now, but what are some of the things that you weren't expecting or some of the things that people should be aware of or look out for when buying a shared ownership property? If you can sort of think of anything.
Yeah, I mean, I guess because it's shared ownership, I guess you need to be wary of things that you can't make too many structural differences to your flat.
Sure.
And I think sure, like you can furnish it and but I think in terms of like structural changes, like, I don't know how you'd go about that.
Sure.
Also, I think you need to be prepared for the fact that like the service and the rent is it's not going to be the same price that you had it the first year. It probably is going to go up each year, and I think you just need to be prepared for that.
Okay, sure. And any other benefits that you'd say that sort of make it seem like a great option versus renting at all, or?
I just think for me, I think it's amazing. I have my own
course.
property, but I'm not paying an extortionate amount for it. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I've literally I've got my own home. No one's going to take it.
Yeah, of course.
That's what I love about shared ownership. It's like that's the difference to renting. If you rent a property, your landlord could turn around and be like, oh, I'm selling or I'm massively increasing, the rent. You're going to have to leave. I know that, I'm in my shared ownership property, but no one's going to take it away from me at the point that I'm ready to move on. Then I'll move on. So,
amazing. Yeah. Okay. And a lot of people talk about staircasing or maybe buying additional shares in your property. Is your plan to maybe get to 100%, or would you say you're content with just keeping the existing share that you've gotten in perpetuity?
I mean, it's definitely something I've thought about and something I would look into. I mean, at the moment, I own 30% of my place.
Okay.
But
is that the initial share that you bought, was it? Or
yeah. So I mean, the minimum I could have bought was 25%, but based on my affordability, the mortgage advisor told me that I could get 30%. So yeah,
you'll probably just sort of keep that share.
I'll probably keep it for now, because I know with staircasing you have to get the value of the property.
That's right.
Looked into and stuff. So I don't know how affordable it would work out to me, but I mean, it's definitely something I'd like to look at. If my salary massively increases, or I get a windfall of money, who knows? Then it's definitely something I'd look into, because I absolutely love my property. I'm in no rush to leave.
100%, 100%. And just very lastly, I guess in terms of what the next sort of 5-10 years hold, or whatever it might be, would you say you'd look at maybe renting it out, or you'd want to buy additional properties, or would you say for you home ownership is mainly just about having your own space and having control over where you live?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm getting married next year.
Congratulations.
So, at some point, me and my partner are going to move in together.
Yeah.
So, whether he moves in with me or we buy a place together, who knows?
Yeah.
But, at the moment, I'm very happy in my place. I don't really want to leave.
Yeah, of course.
I guess life changes might mean that I move out at some point, but at the moment, I'm very content.
Did you need a specialist mortgage advisor when you were looking to buy a shared ownership home?
So I was quite lucky that when I went to the open day at the property I viewed, there was actually a mortgage advisor there that actually specialised in shared ownership properties. So that's the person I had my financial assessment with, and they were the people that I ended up getting my mortgage through.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was all really easy. I didn't have to look for my own one. I didn't have to go get any recommendations, because that person was literally there. So.
And did you have to jump through more hoops, I guess, than if you'd bought it normally, or was it a pretty straightforward process in finding you a mortgage product for what you ended up buying?
It was really simple. I mean, they gave me some options, and at the time I just kind of wanted the cheapest option available. And luckily at the time when I was looking for mortgages, the interest rates were low.
Yeah.
So, my mortgage
much higher
wasn't
now.
too bad. So I know, don't tell me about it. My mortgage is up for renewal next year. So we'll see how that goes.
So
But
you fixed in for 5 years then?
5 years, yes.
Fine. No, pretty good to have that certainty, I
Oh,
guess.
absolutely.
Yeah. So we've bounced around a lot of different topics, all to do with shared ownership, all
Yeah.
the benefits, all the cons. Would you recommend shared ownership to your best friend?
100%. I would say to anyone, if they think that they can't afford their own property, look into shared ownership because they probably can. So 100%. Yes.
Definitely more affordable sometimes than renting then.
Completely. I mean, people could be spending so much money on rent, but actually they could be spending a lot less and they could have part of their own property. So why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I thought it'd be a nice place to finish, but what would you say home means to you?
Oh, wow. I'll say for me, it's independence, it's security, and it's having a place that is mine.
Very nice. Very profound, I think.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Right, so this has been another episode of the Property Pod brought to you by Shared Ownership Week. For more information on all things shared ownership and home buying, head to www.sharedownershipweek.co.uk.